Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Just Living Designs. I have had this traditionally just for pattern support. I do design knitting patterns and I have a few tutorials up on this channel, but I decided to let's try the podcast thing. So within this podcast, my goal is to, of course, share with you some of my designs that I've been working on or that have been released. But as well as that, I would like to show you all the other things that I knit because I do knit other people's patterns a lot. I do knit just vanilla socks a lot because I knit a lot of socks. And I want to showcase the other designers and I want to showcase the like yarn dyers, or if it's commercial yarn or wherever I'm getting my yarn from, my local yarn shop. And I want to showcase, some other small makers, maybe bag makers or other things. And that's, I don't have the ability to do that as well on my other platform of where I sell my patterns or on my Instagram account, because that's my designer account. I do showcase some of those things in my stories, but on my actual Instagram page, I only put my own designs, because again, that's for my business. So this was a way for me to show a little bit more about what I'm working on that's not just my designs. Okay, a little bit more backstory about me is my name is Shannon, Just Living Designs. I live in Billings, Montana with my family. I have a husband who actually works from home. So right now I am upstairs in a quieter space. You can see some of my yarn stash behind me. Like I said, that's not all of it. This is more of the sweater quantities. And I have two children. My daughter is a freshman in high school and my son is a sixth grader. So he started middle school this year. So yeah, they're both at the beginning of something new and interesting. So that's kind of fun and crazy and exciting for everybody. A little scary for everybody too. Since they're getting older, I don't feel like I'm getting older usually until I think about my kids. I don't know if any of you are like that, where you judge your age, like, oh my God, my kids are this old. How can I, man, I'm old. My kids are this old. So yeah, I also have 3 large dogs. They hopefully won't bark. They usually only bark when they see or hear something outside, and they are downstairs, so hopefully they won't be loud. We have a husky. She's the old girl, Ash, and we have a first generation Labradoodle. So he is a Lab Poodle cross is what I like to call him, and his name is Chewy. He looks more like a Muppet. He doesn't have that soft, like gentle curly hair that Labradoodles have. He has crazy animal hair, and he kind of acts like animal. And then our third dog is yellow lab. She's almost white. She's very, very light. So we named her Luna. Yeah, so 3 big dogs. It's crazy, I know, but the lab mix and then the lab, they are the active crazy play ones. And Ash is, husky. She talks, tells you when she's not happy. Yeah, so busy little house here we have. I work from home as well. That's where I do my knitting designs, and then that also allows me to get like the housework done and taking care of house stuff, taking care of people stuff. I can pick up the kids if I need to, and I can get them to practices or pick them up late from practices. Like my daughter just started helping with tech support for a play. My son is in soccer, so there are soccer practices. Yeah, so busy, but yeah, and I do have a window open right now because it's actually quite cool out, so I hope it's not too loud outside. We do have a street a little ways away from us, but hopefully it won't get too loud. It is, like I said, Billings, Montana. It's starting to feel like fall today. We only are supposed to hit like the beginning of 70s. It is a September 20th. It's a Wednesday. It's a little after, I think it's a little after 9 in the morning. Yeah, 920. So yeah, we're looking very much forward to fall. I love fall. I love it when it gets colder. Most knitters, we all do. Since we live in Montana, we do like to go hiking, and we got some kayaks this year, so we go kayaking. It takes a little over an hour to get to the mountains from where we live. So generally we hike at the mountains, but the Yellowstone River runs right by Billings, and so we'll go down to the river with the dogs and walk, and you know, I love going down there in the fall when the leaves start to change. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, it's a little bit about me and where we live. Let's get into this podcast thing. All right, I'm going to start off with what I'm wearing. What I'm wearing is actually a recent finished object too. This is a self-drafted sweater pattern. Not sure if it will ever become a pattern release, because I do have a few sweaters in my pattern library, but they take a lot of work. There are a lot of grading and other information has to go on, and it takes me a lot longer to do those. Most of my designs are socks and accessories. I really like to design socks. I like to knit socks, so that's why I design a lot of socks. But this sweater, the reason I wanted to knit a fingering weight sweater, because I do like the weight of a fingering weight sweater in the fall especially. And I wanted one that was a crew neck, top down raglan. And I had this yarn in stash for a while. I'll talk about that in a second. And I just wanted it to fit my body well. And instead of finding a pattern that I could change some of the aspects of the patterns, because usually most sweater patterns, I almost always change a little something, because my arms are really long, or my arms are skinnier than a lot of things. So I end up making the sleeves skinnier, and my body might be longer, or I don't like it so cropped, or something. Or the neckline isn't quite right, and that's where this one had to start. I like a tighter neckline of a crew neck. And so this one is a fold over neck. I don't know how well you can see that. Fold over neck that I put quite tight. So it is pretty tight to my neck. There's not a lot of room, but it doesn't strangle my neck. And that's what I was looking for. So compared to most sweaters that are fingering weight, the cast on number for this was less, but it still stretches pretty far because it is that fold over neckline. And that's where I started. And then from there I had to, of course, figure out my raglan. And I do love the look of a raglan sweater with stripes, because it is pretty when it kind of just slopes with a yoke, but with raglan it has these little angles that it just makes it a little more interesting to me. And yeah, and it's just a straight top down raglan. From there, I made it, I'll stand up for a second. I made it long enough to hit me really mid hip, which is where I like most of my sweaters. And I like the sleeves to be kind of in the middle of my hand. And then when I get, half the time I pull it up like that, but I love this in the feel. So the yarns I used on this one, the main color, and all this came from Stash. I didn't buy anything specifically for this. The main color is from Dapper Dye Works. I do have a tag here. And this is in his Bennett base, which is 100% Blue Face Lassiter Superwash. And it's called Bronzed Beryl is the colorway name. And you can kind of see, yeah, there you go. It's a tonal brown with a little bit of hints of green in the undertones, which, has that bronzy type look to it, but it's a very, very deep, rich brown. Back here it looks a lot darker, but when you can get, up there, you can see those tones. Yeah, and so that's the main color. And then the stripes, I ended up using a 5 skein mini pack that I got from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers. They sell a lot of minis that they use for dye house trials and errors. when they're trying to figure out new colorways. And so they just sell packs of minis and it's random. And when I bought this mini pack, I think I bought some other brown yarn, probably Eagle Eye. It's like one of my favorite colorways. And I love brown. And they ended up sending minis that went well with it, which is just lovely and gorgeous. And all of 4 of these came from that mini pack. So here's what I have left over. There's a couple, like this one's a very light speckle. You can see that. And then there's a more crazy speckle and then a couple tonals. And there was one more that was like a darker brown, I believe, but I didn't like the contrast as much. So I had in stash, again, from Farmer's Daughter. I think this is a really old colorway called Monarch. I don't think they make it anymore, but it's this tonal pink, very light pink. And I'm not really a pink person, but it all went really well together. And so I put those together in stripes and just kind of worked it down. And since I did that, I actually joined, I did the join as you go method or not join as you go, but where I weave in my ends as you go. So I didn't have a ton of ends to weave in at the end. I just kind of did it as I went. And then you can, let's see, which side is it? Oh, actually I can do it on a sleeve. I left all the strings on the inside. I'm like, they don't bother me. So I just left them there. And that way, if it does pull a little bit, it's not going to pull out and we'll see strings. Anyways, that's just a little insider trick on that one when you're doing stripes. Oh, and this bag, actually, I love, this is one of the Matterroot bags, a trundle bag, and this lunar print. I think they called it Blue Moon or something because it's blue. But then what you do with these is you roll them down and then you can just clip, and it's got a carrying handle, but it also, nothing comes out of it, and there's no zippers. So it's a really nice bag. It's plenty big. Like, it was very big enough for at least a fingering weight sweater. I probably could even do at least a sport weight. I don't know if I could do a DK weight sweater in this one, but I think it's one of their large sizes. Okay. Since I'm on finished objects, I'll do some more finished objects. I recently finished my daughter's Halloween socks. I have both done, but I'll have one on a blocker here so you can see it a little bit better. This is Amanda Knits. I bought it last year when she had some Halloween colorways come out. And this one's called Beetlejuice. And I just did a simple little texture with knit 2, purl 2s, and then knit 2, purl 2 rib. And just solid color for the whole sock. I picked this yarn for her because she really likes purple and she likes brighter colors. Well, she likes all colors really, so I can't really go wrong. And then of course Beetlejuice is just a great movie. So yeah, knit this top down. There's a heel flap gusset. Yeah. So that was her. Every year I try to knit everybody Halloween socks in my family and Christmas socks in my family. And what I do, I usually end up buying the yarn and it goes in stash. And then when I'm ready to knit, I will get them out and have people pick yarn, or I'll pick yarn. The next pair that I finished earlier this month, was my Halloween socks. So there's a pair. And this yarn is from Freckled Whimsy. And so she's a self-striper and she does clubs, and this is one of her clubs. It's the Wednesday Club. And I think this is a couple months back. It is the Nightshade Society. And I like to have, I don't mind having a straight stockinette sock. So for my family, most of my family prefers to have some sort of ribbing to suck in their socks a little bit more. And that's why there's like it's a ribbing texture in this. And you can it's blocked on this one, but it sucks in a little bit more than like this one does. These are the same size socks, so you can see they suck in a little bit more. And my daughter prefers that, and so does my son and my husband. So I get to do straight stockinette vanilla socks. So that's what this is a toe-up vanilla sock, and then it has a cut-in afterthought heel. And I love to use the same main color of yarn to get that bullseye striping. My son said it looked kind of like an eyeball, which is kind of cool. I did not plan that, but I'll take it. And this one is, like I said, toe up, and then it just has a 2x2 rib. And then I do have a tutorial for how I do afterthought heels. If you want to see it, it's on this channel. And then I was going to say about these blockers, not necessary to have sock blockers for anybody, but since I design sock designs, I like to have my socks look nice for the pattern pages and everything. And then since whenever I first knit a sock, I usually block it once. After that, when we wash socks, because we all wear hand socks all the time, I just wash a bunch at once and then hang them up on a drying rack to dry. So they only look fancy usually once, right after they're made. And that was a Bri-spun sock blocker. You can get those on Amazon or your LYS. I think I'm not sure where I got this pair, but I do have a larger pair for my husband. I think I got from my LYS. They stock them. Okay, so that's all my finished objects. I'm going to take a little sip of coffee since it's still morning. I have my last cup. And this is a cup from Shelly Can. She came out with these a few years back, and then she released them again last year or 2 years ago. But I don't think she's going to release these anymore. But she's a really cool knitting graphic designer, graphic illustrator. So, and she's just a cool person. I met her once years ago at a retreat up in Montana, up for Farmer's Daughter. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about my most recent pattern release. I released this pattern earlier this month. And this is the You Belong cowl and You Belong mitts. You can find these patterns. I'll link them below on my Ravelry page. I also have a Pay Hip and Love Crafts that you can find my patterns on. And those links are in my bio here on YouTube. And so you can find those shop links there. So this is a fun cowl, and it's fingerless or fingering weight, and it's made with mini skeins and a main skein with slip stitch mosaic textured pattern. So it gives you some movement on those stripes. And I knit this with, I had these minis in my stash from another Montana local maker, Woolly Witch of the West. She makes naturally dyed yarns, and then she also spins a lot, and she has lots of beautiful naturally dyed yarns. And so I had those, and I like the colors, and the reason I named it You Belong is because the colors reminded me of wildflowers. And so the song Wildflowers by Tom Petty popped in my head, and it goes, you belong among the wildflowers. And I was like, that's perfect. So I called them You Belong. And yeah, so I had these mini skeins in my stash, and they are 10-gram mini skeins. So it's a 5 set of 10-gram minis. And they are natural dyed, like I said, and they are wool, not superwash. So I went to my LYS to find a contrast that would go well with these, and I love brown, like I said. And so I bought some Cambria fingering by the Fiber Company. And so for the cowl and the mitts, I had 100-gram skein of the main, and then the 10-gram minis, 5 10-gram minis, so 50 grams total of the contrast, and made both the cowl and the mitts with a little bit of leftovers. So this is a size, the mitts come in 3 sizes, small, medium, large. So this is a size small. I have narrow wrists. My hands are actually kind of long, but my wrists are narrow, and so I don't like my mitts to be baggy. And so these are tight and they fit nice and well. And that's why I knit the smaller size. This thumb, I have a tutorial linked in the pattern, but it's on my YouTube channel here for a forethought thumb. That's how that's done. So there's a tutorial video for that as well. And yeah, it's just really nice. And it kind of sits up nice on your neck because this one's non-superwash. If you made it with superwash, it would be a little bit more, it wouldn't have that structure that superwash has. But it's very lovely, and I'm very, very happy with it. It's perfect for this time of year. The colors, of course, are, but then, you know, when it gets chillier out, you got some mitts to cover up your wrists, which always seem to be colder. But yeah. So check it out if you would like a nice set, or, you know, it's not sold as a set, it's sold as individual patterns. So if you just like the cowl or you just like the mitts. Okay. Now I suppose we can go on to some WIPs. I have a few that I have a lot of WIPs actually. I only brought up a few that I'm actually really working on right now. And the first one is, I have actually a hoe. I just finished this knitting on it last night, and I wove in the ends this morning. This is my son's Halloween socks. And it's really sucky, and I'll take it off the blocker in a second so you can see how like it changes. But this is, he likes a tall, it's very tall sock and ribbed. So this is 3x1 rib. And this is one of my patterns. It is the Shadow Wrap Heel Socks 2 ways. And I knit these ones toe up. The reason it's 2 ways of a pattern is I have instructions for both top down and toe up, and then the heel. And the heel has a tutorial video linked in the pattern that's on this channel as well. And it has 9 sizes. This one I believe is a size 2 in my pattern, because my son got skinny little legs and skinny little feet still. I mean, that will change when he gets a little bit older, I'm sure, by far. And like I said, he likes tall socks. So if I pull this off the blocker, this is one of those Katrinkle blockers that you can adjust. So this is the size I use for his, because his feet are a little smaller than everybody else's. You can see the difference on how much it just sucks it in and stays up on a leg. And they're tall, like the heel to the very tall. And so I just got the other socks started this morning, and this is in a project bag by Rainworks. They're a Montana maker, and I bought this one at my local yarn shop, the Yarn Bar. They use like a waxed or oiled canvas. I'm not sure which kind it is. And then usually a lot of times it's buffalo hide that they use for the leather handles. So yeah, here's my second sock. Little tiny sock. I just got the toe done this morning. And that's one of my things I like to tell people is cast on your second sock, you know, right after you finish the first one, and you won't have that whole second sock syndrome thing. I never do because I love to knit socks, but this is a little charm, a Zero Dog, ghosty dog from The Nightmare Before Christmas. One of my favorite charm makers, stitch markers, is from Charmed and Dangerous, and that's one of hers. And this one actually glows in the dark, and I love them. All right, and so the yarns I'm using for this one, the contrast color is a nice charcoal gray tonal, and that one is Yarnaceous Fibers. She does a lot of dinosaur themed stuff, and this is La Brea Tar Pits on her Salta fingering. And then the main color, again, bought this last year when, you know, Halloween season socks are released. So this one's a Halloween theme, and it is from Hue Loco, and it's the Hocus Pocus 2 collection. And this one's called the Black Flame Candle, and it's on her Phyllis sock base. I picked this, well, my son actually picked this yarn out because, one, he likes Hocus Pocus, the first movie, not 2, and then he likes blue and those little pops of oranges. So, second sock has just begun. I will probably have that done this week, maybe the beginning of next week. It usually doesn't take me too long to knit socks. It just depends on how much other stuff I'm working on. All right. My next whip is, this is in a bag by Black Pearl Magic. This is not one that she normally sells. I got it in a kit that was released by Traveling Yarn. I don't believe Traveling Yarn is dying anymore, but Black Pearl Magic, you can still get these bags. You might recognize this style. She's known for it, but she has other styles as well. These are the vinyl, and this one is a lovely black with these, you know, glittery. And then her zippers are so cool. Anyways, yeah, love this bag. It's great, especially when you're doing like summer travel knitting and you're at like a pool or a lake or the beach. It just keeps your projects nice in your bag. You can just wipe it off. In here, I have, I'll put this down, Muscle Burl hat by Isolde Teague. This one I started in July sometime when I just needed a plain project and I didn't have a plain sock on the go. So these types, this pattern in particular is a double length sock where you basically knit a crown on both ends and then fold it on the inside. It has all your numbers. You can do different sizes of yarn and needles because it goes by gauge. The pattern's written out like that, so you have lots of different options, and then it has how long you should knit it. I always use fingering weight. I have a tendency to use yarns I don't usually use in socks. Like this is an MCN base because I don't like it as much for socks. It doesn't wear as well. Felt's a lot easier, and just, you know, cashmere is just so much gentler of a fiber, and your feet, if they're in shoes, your socks are gonna get really rough, beat up pretty quickly. So I use this for like hats or cowls or shawls or, you know, even sweaters I'd use it for. But this is an old stash yarn from a club colorway from the Farmer's Daughters Fibers from years ago. And like I said, she's from Montana. She's up in Great Falls. It's about 3.5 hours away, fairly local. I usually just order stuff online from her. When we went up to Glacier last summer, we stopped in, and that was the first time I got to see her brick and mortar store, so that was kind of cool. Anyways, and this is another little progress keeper. It's a little ghosty sugar cookie from Charmed in Nature that I've had for a couple of years now. But yeah, so this is one of those club colorways, so it's not something she has. It's on a base that she doesn't normally have, an MCN, which is a merino cashmere nylon. Yeah, like I don't even know how many years this is. Like at least it's early on in her dyeing career that she released this club. So yeah, long time ago. It was the Rebel Club. And it's been in stash for a long time. Tried to knit it a while ago and pulled it out because I didn't like that project. So it'll get done eventually. I work on that when I'm not sure what else to work on, or if I just want mindless knitting. So it gets done. It will. It will. It's a good mindless knitting project. Okay, my next one is a newer cast on. I did it this weekend, and it is the Home Cardigan by Kadri, and it is Aran weight, I believe, design, but it knits more like a bulky gauge. It's 15 stitches to 4 inches. I believe she has it where it's supposed to be on 10.5. I got gauge on 9. One of those reasons being I'm a looser knitter. Another one is the yarn I'm using is different. And the big thing is the yarn I'm using. Love it. My LYS got this in not that terribly long ago, but I had been meaning to go in and get it. And that's the Yarn Bar. They do have an online shop as well. I'll link it below. But this is an unspun yarn, which I've been wanting to try. There's only like a handful that I've seen out there in the world. This one's from Wool Dreamers, Machalope, and it's 100% Manchega wool, which is normally those sheep are used just for cheese. And they use the wool that usually isn't used for wool. So it's kind of cool. It's like a environmentally, you know, instead of just discarding the wool, they're spinning it up for knitters. And this is their unspun wool. And so what unspun is it's essentially pencil roving. I don't know how well you can see. So there's no spin, no plies, no spin. They put this up as 2 strands around this plate, and you can unwind it and wind it into individual balls with single strand and knit it at a finer gauge. But that will take work, and you have to be a little gentle with it because it does pull apart easily because there is no ply and it's not really spun. I can show you that actually because I had some extra. So here, so like I said, that's 2 plies or 2 strands. It's not plied at all. And so this is how easy it is to pull apart. You just go, whoop. So hardly anything. But the cool thing about it, since you can pull it apart so easily, is all you have to do, you don't even have to spit splice it. You just have to add a little bit of there you go, back together. A little bit of friction on it, rub it between your hands, and it's back together. So a lot of people will accident. I only ripped it, pulled it apart once so far while knitting this, and that was when I was moving my project. I wasn't even doing while knitting. The yarn, you know, because it's also, it kind of sticks to things because it's wool. And it stuck to something, and I pulled and it broke. Yeah, and so this is the color Gris Claro. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. Yeah, and it's just this lovely, like, neutrally kind of gray, kind of oatmeal-y color. I'm sure it's not dyed, but maybe it is, I don't know. It's so squishy and so light and bouncy and airy, and that's what's great about this type of yarn is it makes a really warm fabric that's also not heavy, like weight-wise, like to wear. When you put it on, you don't feel like it's weighing you down. It just feels like nothing. And this is put up in like the 2 strands they say is DK. I'm getting more of a bulky gauge, like I said, and the stitches are more bulky. And so I'm almost done with the back on this one. Starts with the back. It's a drop shoulder, so you knit the back down so many inches or rows, and then you'll pick up at the top for the fronts. And so I'm almost done with the back, and then I'll start the fronts. And this is another little charm, Princess Leia charm by Charmed and Dangerous. I probably got it, I think I got it this year on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Yeah, so it will be a quick knit. It's just, I don't take it anywhere because, again, fragile yarn. So it sits next to me and I knit it. And I just got to be careful when I'm moving it in and out of the bag. And with this one, I normally am an inside yarn puller, but this one I'm pulling from the outside because I don't want to pull the strands apart. So if you ever knit with unspun, that's a good key. Pull from the outside. All right. My last whip is one of my bags, not bags, my blankets. Like I said, I knit a lot of socks. I have a lot of sock yarn. I have a lot of sock yarn scraps because I knit a lot of socks. And so with those scraps, I knit sock yarn blankets a lot of times. Sometimes I use the scraps for heels and toes and cuffs, or maybe like little, like I'll knit maybe little gnomes or little, like I'm gonna knit another little witch here for Halloween. But yeah, a lot of them just go into I have way more than this scraps. This is just what I have in the bottom of this bag right now. And I have more sock yarn blankets. So once I use, if it's like a ton, like here's a fair amount, I'm not gonna put all that in this blanket. I'll put as much as I like, and then I'll throw it into another blankets box or bag for another sock yarn blanket and say, oh, I'll use the rest here. And then other things, you know, here's one. I just got a little amount and I'll use all of that. You know, so it just depends on what I got. And this is a bag maker that no longer makes bags, ink bag, but it's a nice big bag. And so this is the Jelly Roll blanket by Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears. You might have, if you watch podcasts, you've probably seen a lot of different podcasters making this one. I think I casted this one on maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. It was sometime after the pattern was released. The Bakery Bakers ran a knit along for it. And so I was like, oh, I love knit along. So I joined in and started it. Of course, didn't finish it during the knit along, but it was just a participatory knit along, which is always fun. And this one's getting close. I'm on the 8th column strip thing. I'm almost done with it. And then I think I have 2 to 3. I'm making it like big enough for a nice cuddle under blanket on the couch. So 2 or 3 more strips to do, and then there's a I-cord bind off, that applied I-cord edge that will take forever, but it'll be worth it in the end. It always is. If you've ever knit like a Stephen West shawl, it'll be like that, but worse, because this is a blanket size, not just a giant shawl or schlinket that he makes. All right. I think that's all my whips. I have more, like I said, I have more whips. I do not intend to show you everything. Just these are the things that I'm currently focused on or wanting to like finish up. I have probably something like, I mean, it's in the teens amount of whips. I am not one of those people that freaks out about my whip count. Now, when it gets above 20, I'm a little bit like, okay, let's bring that down a bit. But I usually am always hovering in the mid-teens on my whip count. And I have a book that I keep track. Maybe next time I'll show you a little bit of how I keep track of all my whips and my finished objects and stuff. But yeah, so these are the ones that I'm actively working on, and I will, if I pick up another one instead of one, you know, if I put one of these down and not work on it, I might pick up a different one to show you guys. So whenever I'm actively working on something, that's the whips I'll show you. So you might see a lot of different ones throughout if I keep continuing with this podcasting. And yeah, like out of those whips, only one is one of my designs. All the other ones are somebody else's. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast, so you could see other people's. All right, next will probably be a little bit of acquisitions that I've done recently. And this is just from, like I said, the last few weeks, or here, the month of September, I guess I'll do. And then if I continue doing this podcast, however frequently I'll do it, I'll do the new ones that come in from there. And probably the most recent acquisition was not yarn or even knitting related, not really, but I love other things. I love candles. I love plants. I love to bake. Oh, I really love to bake. And so I might show you some baking stuff when I actually bake. Like I have sourdough. I need to feed my starter this morning so I can get some sourdough bread going. I started that before the pandemic, by the way. So I wasn't a sourdough bread during the pandemic starter. I already had my starter going beforehand. But this last weekend, we went to a local plant greenhouse type shop. They are the Roots in Billings, Montana, and they have just a ton of indoor, outdoor plants, plus other items for sale from local makers, like art and pottery and candles and soaps and stuff like that. And then they have a really nice coffee shop, so you can buy a coffee and then go like even sit out in like where they sell all their trees and outdoor plants. It's kind of cool. They have benches throughout that, so it's a nice little place. And we got a little plant baby. See, my husband had to, I'm bad when I go to places that sell plants because I always want to bring more home and we run out of space for plants. So he's like, I'm going with you. So he let me get this one because he thought it was really cool. And I've been wanting one of these for a long time. This is one of those string of pearls. It's just a little tiny plant baby. I haven't repotted it yet. I need to find a pot. I might have one out in my garage that would fit for this, because this will get a lot bigger. It's just that I haven't, you just up the plant size, the pot size, and it has just, I have it sitting normally on a plate because I just watered it not that long ago. So it is quite heavy. It's full of water in here, but the soil's nice and full, but it's not leaking right now. So yeah, I'll get that repotted eventually. Right now it just sits on a plate, usually in my windowsill, down in our living room right now. Eventually I'll get it hanging because that one has long strings that come out and it's just really cool. The other thing we got there was a new candle. This is a candle maker that's local to Billings. And I have it going. This is Veronica Candle Co. Sweater Weather, and this one is a lovely fall scent. It's got like spicy scents in it. You can really smell cinnamon on it, but it's not like overpowering on the cinnamon. It just all kind of blends nice together. It's a really nice one. And this candle maker, like I said, she's local. She does some candle making parties and then of course sells her candles. She has an online shop and I'm actually an affiliate with her online shop. So down below in the description box, there is a link, my affiliate link, and there's also going to be a coupon code down there. So you can save a little bit if you shop from her and use my coupon code as well. She has a few fall scented candles right now and then some of her regular ones. And then I think I don't know if she does seasonal winter ones. I discovered her a couple years back before she had this type of container. She had a glass container one. Her white birch color scent, and I love it. I still have a little bit of it left, but I just ordered another one. And this container is like a cementy type container, I believe. And so she sells the inserts of just the candle and you can reuse your containers. So environmentally friendly, reuse your things. So yeah, she's great new, or not new, I've known about her for a couple years now, but great local candle maker. And again, online shop. I think she has a local delivery option as well, if you're local to Billings. But if not, she'll ship. So yeah, those are my two things that I bought from the local greenhouse. And then the next, it's all yarn. So I said I belong to one yarn club right now, and that is from Freckled Whimsy. And here's, this one was September's and it shipped out at the end of August. So everybody should have gotten it. You know, it's the 20th. But this is the Wednesday club for September, and it was, You Can't Wake the Dead. And it's another 8-stripe repeat. And this one's more like deep, dark jewel tones. So socks soon, who knows? It will go over there. That's where all the sock stash lives. That container, that one's bigger than this one. There's other things other than a sock stash, but that's like more single skein, mostly socks. And then I also got Moon Glow Yarn Co. She is really known for her sock sets like this, where it has a main skein and little minis. These are 10-gram minis. But she also does like a lot of tonal kits, and she does just tonal dyeing. And she's from another fairly local dyer to me because she's down in Gillette, Wyoming. And so that's about the same distance as Great Falls is from us, because, you know, in Montana, everything's kind of local because everything's far away wherever you go. But yeah, so this is one of her new Halloween ones. This is the new Halloween for this year, Toil and Trouble sock set. So I picked this one up a couple of weeks back. She had her Halloween update, and I believe she's releasing another Halloween update here at the end of the month. But I love brown, like I already said, and then my daughter loves purple. And I was like, oh, I love it. And I picked it up because I might design with it. And if I don't design with it, my daughter did express that she would love one of these You Belong sets, knit with it. And since it's a 100-gram with 10-gram minis, which is the same that I used for this, I should have plenty of yarn to do that. This one is superwash. Like I said, it won't be as full of structure as my original sample was, but some of my testers did that cowl set, or just the cowl in superwash, and it looks fantastic. So yeah, it's very pretty. And I don't know. I mean, I, of course, also could make socks, but it'll probably be either a design or that cowl and mitts. And actually my daughter knits as well. And I could have her make herself one, but she's busy knitting some gifts for her friends and then also, you know, high schooler. So she's just busy. My last one is from Mama Just Knits. And this is actually part of the Pigskin Party Knit Along, which I joined for the first time this year. It's another podcaster, Downseller Studio podcast. She's been running it for many, many, many years. And it runs on Ravelry mainly, but there's a hashtag for Instagram. And you get put on teams, and then everything you knit during the NFL football season gets scored like a football game would, and you earn points for your team. And you can do individual I don't know all the details, but I'm doing it this year, just participating, not a sponsor, but Mama Just Knits is a sponsor. And this is one of her special colorways for that knit along, which is it's called Fall Football Frenzy. And so this will be socks, probably for me soon, because it's lovely fall colors and I love them because I am a fall color person. I mean, like it goes really well with this sweater, but you won't see it often because it will be on my feet. But yeah, I love it. So that's, you know, I'm trying to knit more for my stash, but I'm really bad when it comes to seasonal, especially Halloween and fall and then winter and Christmas yarns. When the dyers start dyeing it, I'm like, oh, I want that. So I have a tendency to buy more. And I mean, I knit a lot of socks, so I will knit it, but I will never knit everything I have, and that's fine. Now that my daughter knits, sometimes I'm like, oh, I love this, but she'd like it more. I'll just put it in her stash, because she even has a little stash growing of her own, and sometimes she'll just come into mine. I mean, she has to ask, of course, first, if I'm willing, because I don't like her taking like a skein out of the sweater quantity. But if I have a sweater quantity that's quite large, because sometimes I buy them bigger so I can make my husband a sweater, and then I decide I'm not going to make him that sweater, then she can take that one. Okay, let's see. How about reading and watching? Well, reading right now, I am finishing up a series that I started. It hasn't been a year yet. And I think it's 8 books? Sorry for moving that. I was grabbing a book. I want to say it's 8 books. Yeah, 8 books total, because there's 7 in the actual series, and then there's like a short stories, like precursor to the actual series, which I actually read first. So this is a series by Sarah J. Maas. It's the Throne of Glass series, and this is the final book, Kingdom of Ash. Very big. I'm almost done. I'm less than 100 pages to go. It's almost 1,000 pages, this last one. But they're really wrapping up the series on this one. And if you've read any of her other series, like I have read the, what is it? Court of Thorns and Roses. I've read all but Silver Flames in that one. I have that one on Audible that I need to do, but I don't like to do similar styles at the same time. So this is my fantasy right now that I'm reading. And again, there's fae and warriors, and you know, it's a different world, and it's great. I like this one actually better than the Crown of Thorns series. It's not as sexual as that other one gets. So my daughter is actually reading this one as well. I think she's actually on book 3 right now. She's read the precursor book and then the first one in the series. So she's on the 2nd book of the series, but 3rd overall of all of them. Because I read them and then I go put them in her room, and then she'll read them. Yeah, so this one I'm almost done with. And then the next fantasy one I will start probably Fourth Wing, because everybody's been like raving about it, but I didn't want to start it till I was done with this series. And so I have it ready to go. It's over on my bookshelf, but I'm just waiting. And then the other book I'm reading is actually an Audible. I do listen to Audible when I clean mostly, sometimes when I knit, but usually just when I clean, because when I knit, I generally listen to watch podcasts or football and TV shows, or movies. Anyway, so that book is The Girl from Widow Hills. I'm just started it because I just finished a different book not that terribly long ago. Maybe I'll link my Goodreads down below as well, so you can see what I've read and what I think about books. But The Girl from Widow Hills is by Megan Miranda. Don't remember where I heard about this book. I'm just getting into it, so I don't really know much about it. Yeah, so I'll let you know how it progresses on that one. Watching, like I said, I watch football. I am a Denver Broncos fan. They haven't been playing well for years. I'm not gonna get into it. Anyways, I've also been rewatching ER. It's on Hulu right now, and I am like in the 10th season. I've been watching it for a while. I think there's 15 total. I watched it growing up, and then I didn't watch everything. So now, now I'm getting more of the full story, because of course, when you're watching broadcast, like growing up watching broadcast television, you're not free to watch like at a set time, so it's different nowadays with streaming. And then you can just watch like 3 episodes at once, and yeah. And then we're gonna get into the Halloween movies with the family. My husband and I just watched The Craft, from the 90s. And the kids have been asking about Hocus Pocus and Beetlejuice and, all those fun ones. Of course, Charlie Brown, Great Pumpkin, And then we always watch Thriller on Halloween night, the Michael Jackson video. That is what we do after they go trick-or-treating or whatever. And before they go to bed, we watch Thriller. That's our tradition. Yeah, so I think that's about everything. Like I said, I design patterns, and I am a mom, and I'm a dog mom, and I'm a wife, and I love to bake, and I love to hike, and yeah. If you have any questions, for me, or if you want to tell me how you do your WIPs, like, are you a person that just knits one thing at a time? I find that amazing, because I have knitter ADHD and can't knit on one thing, not even usually like a whole day on one project. I will work on one project and then I'll switch to another one. I also almost always have at least one design going. I think there's probably a few in my WIP pile some things that I will eventually get back to, but I just don't work on, or I have designs that are already done that are just not ready to get out in the world. I'm working on one right now. But yeah, I usually have, like I said, a lot of WIPs, and then I focus on like 3 or 4 or 5, depending on, everything has a purpose. Everything has a different reason for knitting on it. But yeah, just let me know down below if, how you do your WIPs. Are you a crazy WIP amount, or do you focus on 1 or 2 or just 1? Curious how everybody else does. And if you like this video, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I know I have subscribers already for all my pattern tutorial videos, so hopefully those people enjoy a podcast as well. I might get more people that just like to do the podcast thing. Yeah, like and subscribe, and share it if you want with other people. I'm trying to support the local makers as much as possible. Local to me, but just local, like small makers, or just small makers in general. We all need to support each other. And that's my main purpose for this, is to show you some other designers and some other yarn dyers, local ones to me, but then just smaller indie ones that I can find, and bag makers and candle makers and, whatever, mug makers. Anything that I find that I love. Handcrafted, people that put their livelihood and time and, all that stuff. I love it. So I think we should all support each other doing that, and try to do that as much as possible. All right. Well, this got a little longer than I thought it would, but I hope you enjoy. All right. Have a good week. I hope to be back in a week or 2. We'll see. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.